Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining in today on this amazing power packed session, which is how I generally perform a privacy policy review under 15 minutes. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Paakhhi Garg, and I'm the co founder and the director at World Cyber Security Forum. Now, privacy policy is something which we generally see on every website, which is one of the integral part of any data privacy practice, and it's one very initial thought process. But being in the shoes of a data principal or being in the shoes of a legal counsel or somebody who is from a privacy background, how you can quickly review the privacy policy that initially becomes pretty much important. So in this session, I'm going to disclose all the steps that I perform under 15 minutes. This will eventually be helping you out whenever you have a large chunk of privacy policies, either to draft or to understand. So let's move ahead. So in today's session, I have divided that into this part where I will be providing you the real review framework along with the key elements that I check, how you are going to flag the elements in minutes along with site. I have also going to present a live demo right here in front of you of one very famous website. And towards the end, I will be providing you the checklist. Why privacy notice review matters? Of course, transparency, accountability, because these are the primary features, these are the primary principles of any privacy thing. So that is why privacy review becomes pretty much important. Apart from that, it is even important from the compliance standpoint, which will eventually help you out in avoiding any kind of a penalties or misuse. It also helps in relying or in detecting various kind of issues like oversharing, which is definitely against the principle of data minimization or the purpose limitation, right? Missing grievance readdressal mechanism or non-compliance in any of the aspect which is definitely mentioned or is the part of any kind of a privacy law. So let's quickly walk you through some of the steps. Step O, always ask three primary questions. What data does the business actually collect? Why does it collect the data and which law will be applicable? These are three primary questions by which your review should be starting off. What data does the business collect? Why they are collecting it? And what laws are the ones that are applicable on them to go? Now, let's quickly go ahead with my framework that I generally prefer to do whenever I am working with any kind of my client. Number one bucket I have is visibility and language. I have divided that into 5 buckets, so I will be presenting them really very quickly because I want to take up the time to go for the live demo. So bucket 1 says that you need to check 3 important elements. Number 1, easily discoverable. Whether you have to nudge, whether you have to search a lot, a privacy policy in a very website, then that's a biggest red flag. It should be easily discoverable. Generally, the privacy notices or policies are placed at the footer. But if you can't see them at the footer, just use Ctrl+F and write the privacy. Maybe at some location you will find that. Number 2, not hidden or bundled. This is a big red flag. It should not be hidden anywhere. You should not be moving ahead or jumping off from one page to another just to check privacy where the privacy notice is actually located. Number 3, simple language with clear definition. Avoid using any kind of a legal and technical jargon. It should be easily understandable even to that person who does not come from any such background. Number 2 in the bucket list, we have identity and governance. Again, you have to look for three key elements. Data fiduciary details, which may contain name, address, and contact information, details of the grievance officer or the data protection officer, and the version and the last date of update. This becomes very much important. If you are unable to find any of these, trust me, it's a major compliance gap. Bucket 3, close data disclosure, check what kind of categories of personal data that particular website is actually collecting, why they are collecting, which means the purpose of the collection. Apart from that, what are the legal basis for processing the data, whether it's consent or legitimate use. That should be clearly visible on the privacy notice. And apart from that, third party data sharing, retention period, and how the data of children and people with disability will be handled. All these three things would become your core data disclosure. Ultimately, if any of these things is absent, then that's going to be a biggest problem with that privacy notice. Then we have bucket 4, rights and user control. Verify the notice which explains the right to access, right to withdraw the consent, right to correction or eraser, right to nominate, and how to raise a grievance, which means ultimately all the rights which DPDP or any other kind of a privacy law gives us. Most of the Indian websites actually fail there. They only adhere to 2 or 3 rights. They don't provide a clear bifurcation. They don't provide a clear description of how you are going to exercise the rights and what rights are available to you as a data principal. Then we have the final bucket list, cookies, tech tools, and cross-border. You need to check that whether the website is actually collecting cookies. If yes, then what kind of a cookies are they collecting? Are they heavily relying only on the essential cookies, or are they even collecting some of the optional cookies? They should always provide you with a cookie banner which states all the important elements or the description of whatever cookies they are actually collecting. You also need to check for the analytical tools like Google Analytics, Metapixel, or any other kind of a tool which is responsible for collecting the analytical data. Apart from that, security statement, how they are going to protect your data by integrating various technical measures, followed by the cross-border data processing or the storage, whether the company or the website is actually passing on your data to some other organization outside the country is not. This actually eventually helps you out in accessing a lot of the risk exposure. If nothing is clear into that segment, then that's going to be a red flag for you. So these are certain red flags that you need to look up. No grievance officer details, no retention timelines, vague purposes, excessive data collection, no cookie transparency, no cross-border data disclosure, and children data clause missing, if that's applicable. Because in majority of the businesses, it's applicable, but if your business is not dealing with the data of minors, then definitely you can skip that. Now, let me give a quick demo of a privacy notice, which I'm going to take time on. By the time, if you have any questions, just feel free to drop them in the comment section and I will be taking them towards the end. Perfect. So this is the privacy policy of a Licious company, which is a very famous e-commerce brand, which we know, which is selling various kind of meat-related products. So as of now, let's understand exactly if I had to review this privacy policy, how am I going to do this? Number one step, I'm going to provide an identity and a contact check over it. First, I check whether the company actually clearly identifies who they are. Apart from that, what is actually the legal entity of the Licious company? And yes, what are the grievance officer details along with the email and address? Let's quickly check this. So for that purposes, I may have to scroll down and I will definitely be visiting this part. That is H, that talks about the grievances, where the grievance officer detail. Apart from that, the company entire address, the registered office, email, time, how we can contact them, each and everything is mentioned very, very clearly. Now this is a green flag. Now let's move on to the second step, which says what data are they going to collect? So let me scroll back to what data exactly are they collecting. So this is what kind of a personal data are they going to collect? We are going to refer this part. Whenever we are now, this has become very much important because this is a kind of a data categorization where it actually lists various kind of a things like your name, phone number, location, payment details, devices, cookies, etc. This is actually good for this particular website because it's explicit. But I also going to check one more thing. Are they actually collecting any data which can be termed as unnecessary? Unnecessary means whenever they are not following the relevant principles like data minimization, purpose limitation, transparency, accountability. In that case, yes, they are actually collecting device identifiers and tracking pixel, which show that they use the third party tools. So I make a mental note of it to check on a later stage when I'm going to verify the cookies section. Now, then I'm going to move on with one of the very important purposes, which is purpose of collection, which means how do we use your information or your data. Now, I'm going to check whether the purpose is actually clearly defined or not. Leashes actually explain the purposes that they are collecting the data for any kind of a registration, confirmation of the order, delivery, payments, sending any kind of a transactional messages or other sort of communication and the analytics. This is acceptable. But one thing I always highlight is the vague purposes, like improve our services. Now, they have that here, which is a bit vague, honestly speaking, because under DPDP, vague purposes can be problematic. So this is one such thing that I would like that the companies should actually work on. Number 4 we have is sharing the data with the third parties. Now, here you'll see that they are going to share the data with their delivery partners, with their payment gateways, with the analytic tools, and sometimes even with their affiliates. This is pretty much normal for an e-commerce company. But what I'm going to look is for that, are they going to explicitly mention about the processors, the data processors? Here, yes, but it could be more specific. In this scenario, they have already given us all the relevant details. Apart from that, I'm really not sure about their cross border transfers because it's not clearly being explained, which is definitely a red flag for me. Then, as a step 5, I am going to really go ahead and check the retention and the user rights. Now, Leashes actually gives the general statements like retaining the data for as longer as necessary, but there is no specific timeline. This is a very, very major compliance gap, not from just this particular website, but for majority of the Indian websites. Next, they mention user-like rights, access, correction, and grievance readdressal. But the process is not very detailed that if a person wants to access that, then how they are going to reach them, right? Under the DPDP Act, this needs a tighter clarity. Then, as last and the quick step, I am really going to go ahead and verify the cookies section, which is definitely the part over here. Now, I am going to check the cookies and the trackings. Now, Leash is actually using cookies for analytical and as a standard, but again, consent management is pretty much lightweighted. No cookie banner or mechanism is mentioned over here. This is another red flag for compliance. Ideally, if they are collecting cookie, they would have given up a cookie banner. So, in summary, I can tell you that certain kind of a red flag that I would like to highlight is vague purpose statements, limited clarity on the cross-border data transfer, no specific retention period, and cookie consent is not fully addressed. So in this way, you are definitely going to review the entire privacy policy under 15 minutes. Now, I have just taken the example of them. You can definitely go ahead, move ahead, and pick up any other example. Please understand in this video, it is only made for the educational purposes, and I have no intention or I don't have anything against any of the organizations. I have picked them up just to make sure because I like their policy, but there are certain kind of a red flags which I am sure the team will definitely going to work on. Now, a quick checklist again for all of you. Please take up a screenshot. Please take up a moment to take the screenshot of the privacy notice review checklist that I have prepared for you, which clearly says that these are certain pointers that needs your attention. Identity of data fiduciary, purpose and categories of data, consent or legitimate users, third-party sharing, and the cross-border data transfers, data retention period, user rights explained along with the grievance officer details, cookies tracking, and the version history. In majority of the privacy notice, I have personally witnessed that the version history is missing. They don't write when was the last policy was updated. But that becomes pretty much important. And also, as an additional tip, always remember, if you are making substantial changes to your services, to your products, to any of the privacy compliance or any kind of a changes you are making it in your privacy policy, terms of use, or cookie policy, then always document those changes and inform your data subjects about it with the help of an email. Apart from that, you also need to maintain the audit trail for this. So this is a quick privacy notice review checklist. Take it, screenshot it, whatever you feel comfortable at. But if you still want that in a PDF, please do ping out us either on the WhatsApp or on the email, and we are happy to share that. Last but not the least, I would really like you all to introduce to our new upcoming workshop, that is DPDP implementation workshop, which is starting from the 6th of December, where we are going to implement practically each and everything. This privacy notice was just a very small overview of what we are going to cover in our next week's DPDP implementation practical classes. It will be for 4 weeks. The classes are live and will be on weekends itself. So if you want to understand more about it, want to read what topics we are going to cover, then on the right side of the screen, you can simply see the scan now code. Simply scan it up and definitely you are good to go. Read over the details and register now. I'll see you next week. Now, let me take up the questions if there are any. Feel free to drop in your comments if you believe that there are more questions or what would you like me to cover up next. I would be happy to take these kind of a small micro sessions, which will eventually be helping you with the practical implementation. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. I'm just looking up for questions. If you have questions, again, I'm repeating myself, please feel free to drop in the chat box. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Have a great week ahead. Thank you.